economic system refers to economic relationship which arise in the community from the organization or the mode of production. By economic system, we mean the way people organize themselves so as to satisfy their wants by using the resources in the best possible manner. Student, you remember that objective of economy is best possible utilization of resources in order to satisfy the wants of the consumers. And for this purpose, there are different ways where people are organizing themselves so that this objective of fulfillment of unlimited wants is possible with the limited resources at the disposal of the economy. There are various economic systems in the economy. To begin with, we have capitalism, or you can say capitalist mode of production. This is that economic system where all the resources of the economy are in the private hands. So the first feature of the capitalist mode of production is all the resources are in private hands, whether it is raw material, whether it is land, or maybe any other resources. And the second feature of this particular mode of production, that is capitalism, is there is right of inheritance. This right of inheritance comes from the first point, the previous point, that is right to keep the property. So we can say under capitalism, people have right not only to keep the property, but they can also inherit the property to their successors. And they can also inherit the property from their predecessors. Then we have the third feature of capitalist mode of production, and this is freedom of enterprise. Freedom of enterprise means everyone is free to engage in any economic activity one likes. And similarly, every investor is free to invest the resources in any industry he or she likes. So that means there is a freedom to adopt any occupation or trade depending upon the liking of the persons. This freedom of enterprise has some benefits. The first benefit is the person can choose any line of work depending upon his or her efficiency or productivity. And when the person is choosing the occupation or work according to his productivity or efficiency, he is going to give the best possible productivity or production. So we can say there is full utilization of resources of the economy when the freedom of enterprise is given to the person. Then comes the next objective. This is the objective of profit motive. We cannot think of capitalism without assuming the assumption of profit maximization motive. We can say it is the guiding force behind all productive or economic activities. In other words, we can say public or social welfare has no place under capitalism. So capitalism is that mode of production where everything is in the private hands and they are utilizing all resources for maximization of their profit. Next assumption is consumer is the king. This is another important feature of capitalist mode of production, that whatever is being produced in the economy is being produced according to the aspirations, needs, requirements, or wants of the consumers. This consumer can spend the income in any way he likes. So that means whatever is being produced under capitalist system, it is according to the taste and preferences of the consumer. Or we can say the consumer direct the productive activities of the economy, and according to the demands of the consumer, or according to the changes in the demands of the consumer, the prices of the commodities will change, and accordingly producer will be able to decide which particular commodity should be produced and in which quantity. Next feature is competition. Under capitalist mode of production, we are assuming that there is perfect competition in every sphere of the activity. And that means the competition is there between the consumers as well as between the producers. And it is through competition that you often find that the consumers are able to get many commodities at cheaper rate on account of price cutting. On the other hand, the producers spent on advertising to attract the consumers, but this is considered as a waste of competition. Because when we say that there is a perfect competition, it means there is perfect information on the part of consumers and producers, and advertisement has no role to play under this particular market form. In economics, we start with the basic assumptions. You must have heard about other things remaining constant. So apart from this ceteris paribus or other things remaining constant, there are two other assumptions of economics. These include capitalist mode of production, and next, perfect competition. So that means in economics, we assume other things do not change. There is perfect competition. There is capitalism or free market economy. In other market forms, namely monopolies and oligopolies, the competition is not in the pure form. Next feature is importance of price mechanism. Under perfect competition, which is there under free market economy or capitalist mode of production, every central problem or economic problem is solved through the price mechanism. So price mechanism plays an important role not only for the consumer but also for the producers. Now the question arises, what exactly is the meaning of the term price mechanism? Here I would say, price of every commodity is decided by the free market forces of demand and supply. There are as many prices in the economy as the number of goods and services are. The determination of prices of all these commodities and services, along with changes therein, is called as price or market mechanism. So this price mechanism plays an important role in solving the three central problems of the economy. Next feature is inequalities of income and wealth. Since under capitalist mode of production, all the resources are in private hands and the law of inheritance operates. So wide gap exists between the rich and the poor people. These disparities in income may also rise due to differences in the earning capacities and skills of the people. Those people who have or who inherit large property, they are large amount of unearned income without doing anything. Next feature is role of government. In capitalism, the role of government is very, very limited. And that is only to maintain the law and order, or we can say it also provide basic services like defense, education, health, and justice. Because determination of prices and the factors of production takes place with the help of the price mechanism. Class conflict is the last feature. Because of inequalities, the whole society is divided between rich and poor, or between haves and have-nots. Rich people are having everything apart from even basic necessities of life, but poor people are not even sure about their dinner when they have breakfast or lunch in the morning or in the afternoon. The three central problems are solved with the help of price mechanism. You can see in the figures. Figure number 1.6 shows that at E point, demand and supply curve of a commodity determine the equilibrium price. And suppose the consumer increase the demand for this commodity. Because of increase in the demand for this commodity, the demand curve will shift to the right, as a result of which the equilibrium price will shoot up. And this is how we can say consumer will have to pay more price for this commodity, and the producer will shift their resources from the production of other commodity to this commodity. Because of rise in the price of this commodity, producer will find this production of commodity attractive because of increase in the profit margin. Similarly, when demand for some commodity goes down, then the demand curve will shift to the left. That is shown in figure number 1.7. Because of less demand for this commodity under consideration, the producer will be able to sell this commodity at a lower price, and the producer will have less incentive to produce and distribute this commodity. The solution to the three central problems, that is what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce, can take place through the price mechanism. Producer would like to produce that commodity which is more in demand. Because of rise in demand, as I said earlier, the price hikes, and the producer will earn more profit on the commodity under consideration. And when the demand of the other commodity comes down, the price will fall, and producer will have less inducement to produce that commodity. The second problem of how to produce, that is the choice of technique, can also be solved in the same manner. But in this case, instead of considering the two commodities, we will consider the two factors of production. And the producer will have an incentive to employ that factor of production which costs less. Because objective of producer is to earn more profit by selling a commodity which can be sold at a higher price. Likewise, the other objective of the producer is to produce at the minimum cost. That is to produce the commodity by using those factors of production which cost less. So the first problem of allocation of resources The second problem of choice of technique can be solved through the price mechanism. Well, student, you remember that these were the two problems which could also be solved by using production possibility curve. As far as the third problem is concerned, that is for whom to produce, this problem cannot be directly solved by using production possibility curve. This third problem of distribution or for whom to produce can only be solved by making use of price mechanism. And here the producer will produce the commodity for those people who are able to pay and who are prepared to pay the highest possible price for the commodities. That means whenever anything is available in less quantity, auction can be one of the alternative, in which case the commodity or service is made available to those people who are prepared to pay the highest possible price. This price mechanism has certain limitations. Because of this price mechanism, the producer produces non-essential goods which give more profit rather than the essential goods. The second problem is artificial scarcity. Many times producer would like to hold the stock by creating artificial scarcity of the product. The third limitation of the price mechanism is consumer freedom may be sometime less on account of advertising or personal selling. And this happens when consumer is ignorant about the market conditions. This may be because of the next point, imperfections in the market. That means where there is existence of monopoly elements are there, or we can say perfect competition is not there. There are some social costs also for price mechanism because we are not able to maximize the welfare of the economy under capitalism. And there are some demerits also. As far as merit of the capitalism is concerned, it works automatically. Because under capitalism, free market forces of demand and supply are there, and price mechanism automatically decide the price and the changes in the price whenever there is change in demand or supply or both. So we can say price mechanism as invisible hand in the market regulates the functioning of the economy. There is incentive to capital accumulation because we know there is initiative under capitalism. We have right of private property. We have inheritance, that means the property of the father is transferred to the son and so on. So that means that there is a great incentive for capital accumulation under capitalism. Next advantage of capitalism is flexibility or adaptability. As soon as the circumstances change, everything, including the prices of goods and services, demand and supply, they change. And so consumption and production decisions change very easily under capitalism. Under capitalism, the next advantage is decentralization of economic power, because power is in the hands of many people who are rich, not just few people. Next advantage is enterprise. So under capitalism, we have individual freedom, individual initiative. Any person can choose any occupation. And the next advantage is promotion of social interest. So generally, social welfare is ignored under capitalism, but many well-off people or well-off industries or companies spend on social welfare and on social activities. Technology improves under capitalism. This is because of profit motive, initiative, and private property. And the next advantage is standard of living. There is improvement in the standard of living. People are able to consume variety of goods, better quality of goods, because of profit motive and initiative on the part of producers. And so we can say there is a proper or right allocation of resources under capitalism. But we can say capitalism is not free from limitations. There are some limitations also of capitalism. Well, students, when I discussed the features of capitalism, most of the points of merits and demerits actually emerge from those features. So demerits include inequalities in both income and wealth, rich people becoming richer and richer and poor becoming poorer and poorer. Then second limitation is creation of social parasite. That means there are some people in the society who do nothing to earn their living. And this is because of inheritance. The property is transferred from father to the son and so on. So many times we find that when people get some property without any efforts, they do not realize the value of efforts or value of the property. So that means this is leading to a creation of a social parasite class in the society. Human values are diminished. There is welfare loss also because of profit motive. Then there are wastage of competition also. That sometime because of reduction of prices, producers are forced to sell the commodity at a very, very low profit margin. Next disadvantage of capitalism is lack of coordination between various producers and consumers, because all these economic agents are taking independent decisions. Then capitalism is also leading to unemployment because of changes in the trade cycles. You must have heard about optimism or boom period. You must have heard about recession, depression, and prosperity. So we find that there are different phases of the business cycles. And whenever the economy is passing through recession or depression phase, demand for the goods and services is very, very insufficient. And so producers have almost no interest in production and investment. So this leads to widespread unemployment in the economy. The last demerit of capitalism is the whole society is divided into two classes, haves and haves not. And there is a clash of interest between these classes. And sometimes this division of society becomes very, very dangerous for the stability of the capitalist system. And in extreme case, this may lead to emergence of a new mode of production, that is socialism. That socialism is the offshoot of exploitation under capitalist economy, where all resources were owned by private institutions and individuals, and there were great disparities in the distribution of income and wealth that led to class conflicts. And ultimately, because of the revolution, new economic system, namely socialism, emerged. So socialism is that type of economic system where all the resources of the economy are in government hands, and Here, government plays an important as well as active role. The government is not there simply for maintaining law and order. The government has to see that there is no class conflict and all the people have equal status, both economically as well as socially. Let us discuss some of the features of this economy. Karl Marx has a great contribution in evolving this type of economic system. The first feature of socialism or socialist economy is social ownership of means of production. Under socialism, all the factors of production, that is land, factories, all types of man-made and natural resources, these are owned by the government. So that means there is no private ownership of the property at all, but individuals may be allowed to own small plots of land for cultivation. The second feature of socialism is economic planning. Under socialism, there is no invisible market or price mechanism to solve the three basic problems of the economy. Students, you remember, under capitalism, all the central problems of the economy are solved through the price or the market mechanism, where price mechanism helps in deciding the prices of various goods and services. Economic planning is very important in removing various social and economic problems like poverty. Without effective planning, it is not possible to increase the production and productivity. The third feature of socialism is equalities in the distribution of income and wealth. Now, with this and previous points, you will be able to understand that in a way, merits of capitalism become demerits of socialism, and demerits of capitalism become merits of socialism, and vice versa. So under socialism, there are equalities in the distribution of income and wealth, and it is something which is socially justified, politically desirable, and economically good. And when there are social and economic equalities, there is no class conflict. And that is how we have the fourth feature of this economic system, classless society. Under socialism, since private property is not there, so there is no question of having classes in the societies. Everybody gets the same share in the production according to the merit. Well, next feature is freedom of choice in consumption and occupation. Under socialism, major decisions are taken by the government, but still there is a freedom of choice in consumption on the part of the consumers, because whatever is produced is in any case meant for sale in the open market. Further, individuals can choose any occupation they like. Last feature of socialism is equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity is the fundamental goal of socialism. That means whether a person is born in a rich or the poor family, everybody gets equal opportunity to rise in the life. And for this purpose, the government provides subsidies in education, in health, in transportation, and various other fields. Solution to basic problems under socialism. Under price mechanism that happens under capitalism, the central problems are solved by using price of various goods and services, and this price is determined by the market forces of demand and supply. But under socialism, we do not have price mechanism. Rather, we have Central Planning Authority. This is also called as planned economy. The basic purpose of Central Planning Authority is to undertake comprehensive surveys of the available natural, man-made, and financial resources of the country. The objective of this authority is to coordinate and execute diverse economic plans and the schemes, as a result of which the goods are produced according to the requirements of the people rather than on the basis of the purchasing power. In socialism, luxuries are given low priorities, whereas necessities are given very high priorities. That is why the prices of essential goods like food, vegetables are fixed at a low rate. And luxury items like cars and TV are priced high. If the question arises as to how goods should be produced, again, this is decided by Central Planning Authority. And it is not left to the price mechanism to decide, because under socialism, all means of production are under the control of the government. And it is the responsibility of the government to provide jobs to everybody. This is the reason that capital intensive techniques may be cheaper, but they may not be used because it leads to unemployment in the economy. So, Central Planning Authority decides to choose the technique which are in the interest of the society rather than their cost. The government also makes steps that several social costs and other bad things are avoided, like overcrowding, pollution, population explosion, industrial sickness, etc. So after understanding the solution to the first two problems of what and how to produce, we have the third problem of for whom to produce. And this third central problem is also decided by Central Planning Authority by equitable distribution of national product amongst the various owners of the factors of production. So justice is done to everybody. So there are no classes of rich and poor. So the question of exploitation of one class by the other is completely ruled out. So after studying the merits of capitalism, we can understand the merits of socialism, which are quite opposite to those of capitalism. So this is how we can evaluate the socialism, by going through various merits and demerits. The first merit of socialism is maximum or optimal utilization of economic resources. Under socialism, all the decisions pertaining to production, distribution, etc., are made by the Central Planning Authority after careful survey of the available resources and knowing the requirements of the people of the country. The possibility of duplication of efforts or wastage of resources on competitive advertisement is no more there under socialism. So a socialist economy is not subject to overproduction or underproduction. Second merit of socialism, it achieves coordinated development. Now, under socialism, the resources are allocated among the various sectors of the economy, consistent with the priorities fixed for each of these sectors. Thus, no sector of the economy is neglected under socialism. As a result, a balanced and coordinated development of the economy takes place under this type of economic system. Third merit of socialism: elimination of fluctuations in the economy. In socialist economy, the problems of inflation is overcome because of excess demand, and similarly the problem of deflation is overcome because of deficient demand. This happens only under capitalism, where the reason for overproduction and underproduction is the fact that all the resources are in private hands and their production decisions are governed by profit motive. But in socialism, inflation, deflation, recession, depression are almost absent because nothing is left to the market forces of demand and supply. Here everything is decided by central planning authority, which is having a complete control over the economic life. So the possibility of occurrence of boom and depression are completely ruled out under socialism. The situation of depression of 1930s remind us when the whole capitalist world was under the grip of this situation, resulting in unemployment and poverty. Russians were not affected by depression even at that time on account of socialism prevailing at that time. Next feature leading to merit of socialism is social security and welfare. Since socialism is based on the principle of public welfare or social welfare, it guarantees social security to everybody. And here people are protected from uncertainties in income, job, and living. Next merit of socialism is it secures equitable distribution of national product. The possibility of private profit that accentuate inequalities of income and wealth is no more there under socialism because it is a society with no classes. There are no classes like landlord and tenants or rich and poor. So there is no possibility of some people getting unearned income. Workers are paid according to the work put by them. So there is optimum distribution of national product under this type of economic system. Next merit of socialism, it eliminates social parasitism. We all remember that under capitalism, there are two classes of people: owners of the factors and workers, as a result of which the society is divided between haves and haves not. And under this society, owners of the factors of production do not get their rewards on the basis of their contribution to the production. So under capitalism, rich section of the society exploit the poor workers. Such is not the case under socialism, where each one has to work according to abilities. A socialist society uses the services of all the people, and no one is left without doing anything. Last merit of socialism is it eliminates labor disputes. Since the economy is divided between poor and rich, between workers and the owners, dispute may arise between these two classes of the people. And on account of these disputes, labor and other members of the society suffer. But in socialism, Due to the presence of the government, workers are also the owners. Profits of the enterprise are spent for the welfare of all and not for the few. We now study the demerits of socialism, which are similar to the merits of capitalism.
Hello, sir.
The first demerit of socialism is there is loss of initiative. Under socialism, all economic activities are planned and controlled by the government. Here, people become like a machine. They have to work according to the decisions made by the planning authority. So under socialism, there is no incentive for hard work or efficiency. Everything is planned by the government. There is no scope for individual initiative and enterprise. Second demerit of socialism is concentration of economic and political power. We all know that under socialism, all economic decisions are taken by the government through the central planning authority. Production itself is controlled by the government. Even the distribution of production is done as per discretion of the government. So human liberties are drastically curtailed in different spheres of human life. And the third demerit is here, consumers' discretion is lost to some extent. The consumer may not serve as a king as happens under capitalist economy because there is no price mechanism for the same. The fourth point of demerit is loss of freedom of occupational choice. The choice of occupation is more in the case of capitalism than in the case of socialist economy. The reason is people are directed by the central planning authority, and it is said that individual taste and capacities are taken care of while directing people to different activities. In the case of capitalism, people can easily choose any job, but some restrictions are there in the case of socialism because all resources are in the government hands. The fifth demerit of socialism is bureaucratic control. We all remember that whenever anything is left in the hands of the government, it many times leads to delays. So because of bureaucratic control, a number of people are involved in the work of drawing various plans. It is very difficult to find a large number of competent persons to draw and implement a comprehensive plan. The cost in such economies increases because of the payment of salaries to large number of people. And this bureaucracy also leads to red tapeism as well as corruption at different levels. So this is a great drawback of the socialist economy. We have the last demerit of socialism, lack of flexibility in the system. When economic conditions change, whole exercise has to be repeated. The socialist economy is having a system of rigid control. It promotes equality, it promotes stability, it promotes growth. But there is lack of economic freedom and initiative on the part of individuals. This is the reason why most of the economists have advocated for a still new form of economic system that combines the merits of capitalism and socialism and avoids their drawbacks. And this is known as mixed economy, to which we now shift. So let us now discuss about mixed economy. Mixed economy evolution is the result of controversy and conflict between socialism and capitalism because of their inherent demerits. So let us discuss something about this type of economic system. And many people would say that this mixed economy is a golden path between capitalism and socialism. And this can be understood by looking at the various features of this type of economic system. If you evaluate this type of economic system, we will say that it has certain advantages because it incorporates, or it tries to incorporate, the merits of capitalism as well as socialism. But in actual practice, it suffers from number of limitations. And one of the important limitations of mixed economy is that there is instability. So there is always an uncertainty about the respective role of the public and private sector. We all know that under capitalism, there is only capital, there is only public sector. In socialism, there is only private sector. But under mixed economy, there is existence of both of these factors. So the roles are not clear about public and private sector separately. Sometimes due to changes in the socio-political setup, there may be a change in their respective roles. When socialist ideas become popular, the economy will move towards socialism. At other times, when capitalist idea gain popularity, the economy becomes capitalist. For example, in our economy, public and private sector both exist. The public sector was assigned a prominent role in the earlier phase of the economic planning. But after the announcement of new economic policy, the capitalist cause is becoming stronger, which is undermining the importance of the public sector. So this is paving the path of capitalism. And sometimes private sector may refuse to cooperate with the public sector, and it may show up the weaknesses of the public sector. That may be another ground for instability under mixed economy. Second limitation of the socialist and capitalism mixture, that is mixed economy, is that the big corporation enjoy considerable monopolistic power, and they exploit small producers, workers, and consumers. Even such big corporations are also getting help from the government through licensing and other policies. And this increases the concentration of economic power. So we can say the mixed economy runs the risk of having economic power which is concentrated in private sector and in the hands of the politicians and top bureaucrats. Now we have the third limitation of mixed economy: inefficiency and corruption. Different policies of the government regarding control and regulation of the private sector adversely affect the private initiative, and this leads to inefficiency in the private sector. The efficiency of public sector is also poor due to lack of fixation of individual responsibility. Non-availability of trained managerial staff is another reason for inefficiency of the public sector. Sometimes the government even ignores the development of the private sector. That also leads to uncertainties. Corruption by government officials for personal gains also hampers the efficiency of the public enterprises. The last limitation of the mixed economy is fear of nationalization. The government takes over some of the industries with the social objective. You remember that In 1969, 14 commercial banks were nationalized in India, and this was because of inefficiency and misappropriation of funds. 6 more commercial banks were nationalized in 1980. So private sector with this sphere in mind does not invest much. This hinders the growth under mixed economy. Mixed economy may not have the advantages of both capitalism and socialism. It is often said that one who rides 2 horses is always in the fear of slipping down. Still, many countries of the world like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, etc. have successfully adopted the mixed economy. The success of this economy depends upon the proper cooperation and coordination between the private and public sector. So we can say that private and public sector should play a complementary role rather than competitive one. So much depends upon the implementation rather than the features, merits or demerits of different economies as such.